Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're doing something, well, honestly, a little radical. We're completely shifting our perspective. If you've always thought of Latin as just this dead language, a dusty series of declensions that you instantly forget right after high school, get ready to completely reconsider. We are reframing Latin today, not as a relic of the past, but as elite cognitive tech. So are you ready to upgrade your brain? Let's get into it.
There's this brilliant quote that says, Latin acts as a very high-level mental operating system. Just think about that for a second. We aren't just talking about memorizing new words for old things here. Learning Latin is literally like installing a major software update right into your mind. It's a foundational code that actually formats the very way your brain processes the passing of time, causality, and reality itself.
Think of this as the release notes for our mental update. First, we'll look at the mental software concept. Then, the cognitive gymnastics of syntax. Third, Latin's integrated metaphysics. Fourth, how it acts as an antidote to TikTok brain. Fifth, its surgical vocabulary. And finally, the paradox of ancient ultramodernity.
All right, part one, the mental software. Let's look at this true cognitive upgrade.
So what does this ancient technology actually do to you? Well, Latin is so much more than just a communication tool. It is an architecture. When you install it in your brain, it completely changes your baseline perception of the world around you. It doesn't tell you what to think. Rather, it changes how you perceive the hierarchy of information. It changes how you link cause and effect, and how you rigorously separate your subjective feelings from objective facts. It's really the very foundation of structured thought.
Moving right along to part two, cognitive gymnastics. We're talking serious brain training through syntax.
This brilliantly illustrates exactly how the mechanics work. Take modern languages, for example. Thought is totally linear. The dog bites the man. Boom. From the very first words your brain understands. It's passive, really. But with Latin, word order is incredibly flexible. Whether you say canis hominem mordet or hominem canis mordet, getting the exact meaning requires you to wait for the very last word to piece the puzzle together. Latin forces your brain to develop massive working memory. You literally have to suspend judgment and keep all the pieces floating in the air until you hit that final period.
And this is where the mental upgrade really kicks in. You see, Latin relies on morphological cases, meaning it isn't where a word sits in a sentence that matters, it's the ending of the word itself. This grammar forces you to think in terms of relationships and interactions, not just geographical placement on a line of text. By reading Latin, you're actively rewiring your brain to have a global vision of a situation. You learn to identify the function of every single element, who is acting, who is receiving the action, by what means, way before you even focus on the object itself.
And then there are fascinating structures like the ablative absolute. This grammatical construction installs the idea that the world isn't just a basic series of consecutive actions, A, then B, then C. No way. The world is made up of embedded states and circumstances. With things like the ablative absolute or participial clauses, you just naturally start thinking in backgrounds, preconditions, and simultaneous events. It's like downloading a completely different ontology straight into your mind.
Which brings us to part three, integrated metaphysics. This is all about the fundamental perception of time.
6. That is the number of tenses Latin has in its active voice. But to be honest, the actual number doesn't matter nearly as much as what lies beneath it. The real power of Latin rests in a profound, dual-core metaphysical distinction that is, quite frankly, sorely missing from most of our modern languages.
Let's break down this vital distinction. On one side, you have the infectum. This is an action in progress, totally immersed in the great, ever-changing flow of becoming. I read, I was reading, everything is still possible. But on the other side, the perfectum. And this is where the magic happens. The exact moment an action shifts to the perfectum, like I have read, it is violently pulled right out of the flow of time. It becomes closed, completed, it instantly transforms into an incontestable, objective fact. It becomes a permanent brick of reality.
And this is exactly where that famous Roman gravity regarding history actually comes from. This linguistic trait perfectly mirrors an incredibly grounded, serious worldview. In the Latin mind, whatever falls into the perfectum is done. It is irreversible, and it weighs forever on the architecture of reality. So, this profound awareness of the weight of history isn't just a philosophy they talked about. It is literally hard-coded into their everyday grammar.
Okay, part 4, the antidote to TikTok brain. Let's talk about focus and complexity.
So how exactly does this ancient operating system patch our very modern bugs? Well, enter the classic Ciceronian sentence, the typical architecture used by writers like Cicero or Tacitus. Think of it kind of like Russian nesting dolls. Step 1, you open a main proposition but leave it completely in suspense. Step 2, you slip in inserted clauses. Step 3, you add relative subordinates. And step 4, you nest ablative absolutes. Everything interlocks perfectly. The reader literally has to hold all these branching paths in their head to grasp the final meaning. Reading or writing a sentence like this means training yourself to hold up to 10 levels of reality at once without ever losing the main thread.
As a matter of fact, it's been called probably the best-known defense against TikTok thinking. And there it is. In a modern digital world that actively shatters our attention, conditioning us for 10-second videos and instant gratification, Ciceronian periodicity is the absolute shield. It is heavy weightlifting for deep attention and complex thought. It actively pushes back against digital superficiality.
Next up, Part 5, Surgical Precision, Building a Map Without the Blur.
There is a super striking fact about Latin. It has absolutely zero catch-all words. Take the concept of law or justice, for instance. In English, we throw those words around pretty interchangeably. But in Latin, fairness or equity, institutional justice, written law, and divine law are all placed into separate, completely airtight drawers. And the same goes for concepts like the mind or virtue. The Latin mind is forced to carve up reality with absolute precision. It simply does not tolerate blurriness.
And this is exactly why translating Latin into modern languages often induces what's described as translation vertigo. You are moving from a highly surgical language to what is analytically considered a soft language. Suddenly, you're faced with 10 words that mean roughly the same thing, but absolutely none of them capture the exact razor-sharp reality of the original Latin term. It's a brutal drop in resolution.
Finally, Part 6, Ancient Ultramodernity, a truly modern paradox. So, the crucial point of all this analysis brings us to a fascinating paradox. Learning Latin today does not turn you into a dinosaur. It doesn't make you retrograde. In fact, it actually makes you ultra-modern. By downloading this software, you completely bypass the limitations of current languages. Languages that are often way too obsessed with rapid communication and immediate clarity. Latin restores a mental architecture that lets you think synthetically and rigorously, while still maintaining this immense poetic depth.
Want the ultimate proof? Just look at Boethius and his work, The Consolation of Philosophy. In Latin, there's no barrier. There's no rupture between the coldest logic and the most vibrant eloquence. Boethius seamlessly transitions from a relentless metaphysical proof to a fiery lyrical poem, from one sentence to the next, and it flows perfectly. The language allows the two extremes of the human mind, mathematical rigor and artistic beauty, to exist in absolute harmony.
So Latin is so much more than a language. It really is source code. It restructures your perception, it sharpens your attention, and it provides an impenetrable defense against the fragmented thinking of our era. The question I want to leave you with today is simple. Are you ready to upgrade your mind? Dive in, tackle a classic text for yourself, and just see how your brain adapts. Thanks for joining this explainer, and we'll see you next time as we decode more of the hidden systems that shape our world.